air. What? Now, wait for it.
Hello everyone, we are live now. I'm Dr. Roslina Ismail, or you can call me Lin Ismail, from University Malaya, the Deputy Dean for Faculty of Creative Arts. Okay, welcome to our webinar series 3. See, this is an art science webinar series 3 titled Transcending Art Science Culture in conjunction with 13 ASEM Fest. Okay, the 13th, in conjunction of the 13th Summit of the Asia-Europe Meeting, ASEM 13, the Ministry of Culture and Fine Arts of Cambodia, MCFA, in partnership with the European Union and the Asia-Europe Foundation, ASEF, organized this ASEM Cultural Festival 2021. This festival showcases the rich cultural diversity and brilliant creative collaboration from Asia and Europe through theatre, dance, music, visual arts, and interdisciplinary presentation. So for this 13th summit, Academy Science Malaysia has hand in hand with ASM to present our Art Science webinar series. It is part of Academy Science Malaysia initiative in converging artists and scientists, arts and science into in transcending the art science culture. So without further ado, I would like to invite, we have very exciting speakers today from all over the world. And I would invite our first speaker, which is a keynote address by our founder of Art Science initiative by the ASM, and she also the director of the International Science Council ISC Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific. Her title today is Art Science for All. The floor is yours, Tansri.
Thank you, Lynn. Let me see. I'm unmuted. Thank you, Lynn, and good evening for most of you in Malaysia and in this region. Good morning, I think, to some of you. Greetings to my esteemed, can you put it back to my first slide, please, Deva? Yes, thank you. Greetings to my esteemed fellow panelists. It's an honor for me to be part of this panel and on this webinar. Okay, the message I'm trying to get across, I know I have 8 minutes, so I'm going to speak rather quickly. The message I would like to get across today is that art science is for everyone, and it can be practiced by everyone, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So anyway, my art science journey began in 1989. I just calculated how many years ago, and it says 32. So I'm convinced some of you were not born yet, huh? But anyway, why 1989 is because the king, the Malaysian king at that time, was going to officiate the Kuching Planetarium. This is a king much feared by some of us, and which was worse is that he had in-depth knowledge of astronomy. So the people at the Kuching Planetarium felt that they could not do wrong, and so they had to invite me to come and do the show. Not that I had ever done a planetarium show. You must remember, I'm an astrophysicist, never worked in a planetarium before. And so in that short period of time, I had to quickly learn how to use the equipment. And this is the most important thing, I had somehow to use science, culture, religion, art into a show. I had to put all of that into a show. I learned a lot just putting that together. But yeah, so since then, of course, 5 years later, we opened up our own planetarium, and I got deeper and deeper into the art science realm, in the realm of art science. Anyway, we will not go into that, but I would like to say that I have always been not forced, cornered into saying, so what is art science? Define art science, you know? No, I do not intend to define art science, and neither will I define art science. There are lots of you are cleverer than me who I think might want to do that. The reason is because I do not want, I feel that we should not box in the creative process, which is the reason why when we called for the first Art Science Prize, we did not say art science means this, you know, and I'm glad we didn't, because we got so many different kinds of submissions. And then people say that art is on one extreme, science is the other extreme. I'm the scientist, you know, and I don't see that being at two extremes, you know. And can you change the slide, please, you know, because I see that art at the center of the creative, at any creative process, is the human spirit. So whether you're art, you're science, it's the spirit, you know. So I see no differences in the art and the science creative process. And this, you're going to see beautiful pictures of the universe, but there is again another story why I fell in love with astrophysics, and these are the pictures that will tell you why I fell in love with astrophysics. So we're not going to define art science. Change the slide, please, Bino. Because in promoting art science, our goal is to kindle, as I said, their creativity and discovery, where art, science, technology, and design converge. These are words, you know, somebody else has used as well, where they use the word collide. You know, all of these collide, which is fantastic, because in any kind of unstable situation where there is collision, there is always lots of creativity going on. But what I'm going to talk about next is that I want to look at art science at three levels. The first is at the organizational level, the second is at the communities level, and the third at the level of the individual. Change slide, please, Bino. Thank you. Right, I could have used a lot of examples of art science at the organizational level, but I found this, you know, the Science Gallery Network. It is, of course, Eurocentric. As you can see, a lot of the centers, there are 8 major centers, a lot of them in Europe, and it is about and it consists of those leading universities. But here you can see that they have a single mission, which is to ignite a creativity and discovery where science and art collide. There are some universities there in our region, but I like this network because they talk about the transdisciplinary approach. That's what art science is about, is a transdisciplinary approach, because they're at the university to educate, then it's an approach to education and of course innovation, because they think that those are fundamental to future-proof the university. So art science is about the future, you know. It sparks catalytic conversations, connections, and collaborations across all these networks. So I'm going to read what they say here, that their programs feature emerging research and ideas from the worlds of science, art, design, and technology, presented in connective, participative, and this one I like, surprising ways. So all these words that they are using, of course, all of us here, especially in this panel, we use those words all the time. But of course, what would the benefit of being a member of this network is that you can draw on their global connections and you benefit from it to translate what you see from this network. You would use that through your local insights and to generate new research for your own local impact. So I like that, this connection between what is international to what is then local. And that's only one example. And I looked at the internet because there are so many art science at the organizational level, so many intellectual papers on that, but that's only one example. Now then, let me give another example of art science at the community level. Please change slide, Vino. So this is what they call the city as a living lab. I fell in love with this. It was so great. And if you look at all the other activities that they've got, and here is where they are involving the communities for environmental issues. Of course, this is one of the most obvious things. When you include the community, you talk about climate change, equity, of course, and health. So here is another example of art science at the community level. So last of all, change the slide. I'd like to show art science and the individual. And Lynn is going to say, what the heck is that? That's just picture of Mazlan's garden. Okay, yeah. I do have a little garden. You know, I live in an intermediate terrace house, Cho Guan. And so I have very limited space, but I totally neglected this little garden while I gallivanted around the world, I have to confess. But since March 2020, my wings were clipped, of course, and I started to pay more attention to the garden. So while to you look at this and think, yeah, it's just a picture of a plant, but I tell you, I've spent 18 months experimenting, moving my plants at different places. You know, I had to get the right amount of sunlight, shade, water, and sometimes I had to put on my music loud enough. I'm always playing Chopin in the morning while I'm having coffee. And my brain waves, because I can't speak to them all the time, but I'm thinking of them, you know. But all of that science experimentation I've done, I created this beautiful landscape composition that my neighbors will enjoy. I have, walkers in my neighborhood, and we all enjoy each other's garden. So this is my art science contribution to my neighborhood. Last slide, please. And so with that, I'd like to thank you for your kind attention. Now, please note that the pictures, that first picture I showed, that picture of the interconnected galaxy, and this is a real picture of the universe. So if you think that artists have great imaginations, what God has created out there belies all our imagination. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tan Sri Mazlan Uthman. We will post each of our speaker bio in the chat box, and so you can check out who they are and what they have been doing under the art science umbrella. Okay, with that, thank you, Tan Sri. That was very interesting about the trees. Yes. I would want to visit your garden because I don't have a green thumbs. Everything I touch will just die off. Okay. Okay, without further ado, let's invite our first speaker, Noah Heim. He is the founder and director of Collective Paper Aesthetic. Noah will present a presentation titled The Paper Batik Journey. So Noah is from Belaga Institute alumni, design and develops audience engagement materials and STEAM education resources in a form and scale of a pop-up architecture. Nice. Among her studio new project and awards are Craft City Lab, a project merging the city infrastructure and the cultural event from and for Cheongju Craft Biennale in South Korea, Designscape's second open call, together with Cultural Heritage Without Borders in Tirana, Albania, and designing the opening of Workroom in the Humboldt Forum, Berlin. In all these projects, participants are aged from 7 to 70 plus, or are having an active part in shaping the places they truly love. So do share with us, Noah, your interesting project on papercraft.
Thank you very much for the beautiful introduction. Thank you very much for the beautiful introduction, and good afternoon, and many thanks to Zanita Anwar from the National Art Gallery and the Science Academy of Malaysia for inviting me to speak with you today within the context of Transcending Art Science Cultures. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you. My name is Noah Heim, and I'm the founder and creative director of Collective Paper Aesthetics. In my education and employable experience, I'm an architect and urban planner. Following the presentation of my graduation work in a form of participatory activity in London Festival of Architecture 2008, I began my independent creative entrepreneurship journey as a collective. Collective Paper Aesthetics designs and develop audience engagement materials and STEAM education resources in the form and scale of pop-up architecture. These materials are interlocking cardboard boxes designed to be assembled and disassembled using hands only. The model in the photo designed for the opening of the Werkraume in the Humboldt Forum Berlin. The joints are the colorful pieces. The principal tool and its variations are based on a cardboard pattern that can be folded into three-dimensional building blocks. In this photo, you can see the folding lines in the pattern and the slots where the joints are sliding into in the hands of a 6-year-old child. In 2015, the studio was invited to participate at the Kotatua Creative Festival. The event was curated by Schau Architecture and Urbanism, a Rotterdam-Bandung studio, and funded by the Stimulering Fonds Creative Industry. Kotatua is a reminder of Old Batavia, the first world settlement of the Dutch in Jakarta area. In the photo, you can see a typical performance art, the Flying Man, in the main square of the old city. For the custom-made model, I was looking into traditional subjects in Indonesian culture and architecture, which can be translated to a fold and fold making activity. Having the notion of STEAM education at the back of my mind, I choose to use Kawung Batik motif because of the repetitive geometric ornaments based on circular shapes, stars, squares, cubes, and others. Studying the pattern in the studio, we found 3 basic building blocks, basic shapes, which can be made with 1 and/or 4 cardboard kits. So to the left side, you can see the triangular prism, which can be made with 1 activity kit. And to the center and the right, you can see the composite solid and cuboctahedra, which can be made with 4 activity kits. And when we have like 3 different variants, we know that when we take it out, it will. Hello? Yeah. To foresee how one can create a 3D structured universe from a 2D pattern, the studio is using paper and computer models. Still, when we take the models out to work with people, we most of the time discover many new structural configurations, which is the power of participatory projects. The production process was a true Europe-Asia collaboration when the first part of the development and the production was made together with Alberto Marchente in Labo Verpackingen in Eindhoven, while the second part of the development and production was made together with Anger Diri Viranata from Dus Duk Duk in Surabaya. The participatory workshops took place in Historia Kotatua, which is a bar restaurant with dedicated spaces for creative activities. The workshop's setup and supervision was made together with Lingkaran, which is a leading creative education platform in Indonesia. Lingkaran founder Wendy Pratama is responsible for the beautiful documentation of the workshops too. The participants in the workshops were design and architecture students from Jakarta. The idea at first was to direct the students to work in groups, when every group will investigate different typologies which form secondary building blocks for imaginary larger megastructures. The relaxed setup of the bar restaurant as informal learning space enriched the workshop experience, allowing students, after all, to work individually too. while customers in the bar restaurant were engaging in the workshop discussions as guest critics. The unique story and the beautiful photos caught the attention of local and international design and architecture media outlets. In addition, the original cardboard model was exhibited under the framework of Imagining New Euro-Asia project in Asia Culture Center in Gwangju, South Korea later that year. In 2021, the paper batik model was reproduced for educational activity with school children in London Borough of Newham, organized and operated by the Institute of Imagination. Let us close the presentation with hearing what the future generation in a European context has to say about working with the model, working with art.
My name's Savina, I'm from the Institute of Imagination.
Today we've had a wonderful workshop by the Institute of Imagination, and we were given the task to create sculptures, and we had to use tenets of teamwork, of collaboration to work together.
We've been making triangular prisms and we've been working with our partners to make them.
It was really fun and pretty difficult. We kept trying and trying until we got it. We was in lockdown for a very long time where we couldn't see any friends, but now we can do more things like this and more workshops.
It's been fantastic to be back with all of my friends because we've been missing out a lot and we've been achieving more together.
A workshop like this can really come and change everything up and just brighten everybody's day, and it can also teach them that despite a pandemic like this, through the task, through our imagination, through resilience, through teamwork, we can have fun, we can achieve, and we can overcome and be successful.
Thank you. And if you have more questions, you're welcome to ask me in the chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Noah. Very interesting. It reminds me of the crystal arrangement of atoms in its solid state. So, right. Okay, let's go to our next speaker, because our Q&A session will be at the end of the session. So you are welcome to post any question in the chat box, and we will go through those questions later. All right, so who is our next speaker? Yes, it's Mr. Venza Chris, founder and initiator of House of Natural Fiber, HONF, H-O-N-F Foundation since 1999. Mr. Venza Cruz will share with us his presentation titled The Future of Arts and Space Science. Please, the floor is yours, Mr. Venza.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening or good afternoon for everybody here, and thank you for having me and invite me for this forum. So I have a lot of documentation, but I will choose some of the very interesting that probably is really engaged with the title of this forum, because this is our how to build our imagination between art, aesthetic, and also astronomy and also space science. So I will share the you can see. Yeah. I will start with this Area 51 project that maybe 10 years ago, and while I'm invited by the University of California, Riverside, and this is also the biggest military base in this planet, and also it's not easy to go close there, and we have to be very careful and have the very officially engaged with some legal and also some equipment, the very well prepared equipment. So we are we're trying to come close as we can, and this is Area 51. If you know the imagination of Area 51 for the space secret military base, and in probably if you see a lot of movie related with the Area 51. And this is the camp that we stay there to collect all the equipment, and also we're trying to have the specific frequencies that happened around the specific site. And we also produce a lot of workshop producing the receiver and also transmitter antennas like this. The very simple and also very complicated workshop for the student there. If you go there and you will find a very unique extraterrestrial highway. That is a very funny name, and also it is the official site for some UFO hunter. So I mean, this is also the equipment that probably you have all in your house. It's very simple things that we can create something like this, and we can produce specific instrument and specific sound catched by the specific frequencies from outer space, and also from the around military base. That this is show and exhibit in California at the time. I will very quick for this is the next project in Japan. It's called Your History Has a Surprise Beginning, our super micro solar system neighborhood. So how to make the simulation of our solar system, that the imagination of in one solar system, how many planets that we can imagine. So at that time also ISSS always working with astronomy and space science people, and we collaboration a lot with also practitioners and professor from the university. And at the time invited by Yamaguchi Center for Art and Media, or YCAM in Yamaguchi. And this is the huge black box that we can produce the imagination of the planet in our solar system. How many? And for the kid, for example, can entering the area of the exhibition, and they can lay down, they can sleep there, and then they can imagine the sound and also the color of the planet immediately when they close by one point to another point. So that is the collaboration with more endless 12 technicians and background from different university there. This is the how to make the spatial sensor if people can entering the room and can hear the color related with which planet they will see. It is another view of the exhibition site. Another project is in Taiwan. This is from the Michiokaku, the astrophysics, Japanese astrophysics who live in New York right now, and is very famous and produce a lot of books. And one of books is have the very strong about the parallel world. And this is the Lulin Observatory. It's not public, it's not open for public, but it's under university, and we have to make the specific letter and very special presentation to some professor in the astrophysics there inside the university, because we need to go through the real collaboration and to how to use the telescope for our project. So this is a telescope at that time, and now we have now they have the new telescope, which is the largest one, and they say we can operate there, we can use for the very basic
Mr. Venza, you are muted. Can you unmute your... Let's see better. Vino, can you check this? So as you can see in the chat box, you can read about Mr. Venza bio and all his past project. So we're trying to work on this. Okay. Mr.
Hello?
Venza? Yes, yes. Please continue.
Yeah, sorry, this is internet problem. This is the project that we have to be very careful, because it is the very expensive unit and instrument that we have to working in. And then this is the way how we can use the telescope. And at the time also, if we remember, Lulin Observatory also have the observation about Lulin comet. So, Lulin comet is also known as a green comet. So green comet is produced by some astrophysics from the professor and student in astrophysics in Taipei. This is the instrument, the installation that we produce for the exhibition, that the Lulin comet can have sound, also visualization, is also light sensor that people can see and to hear the movement of the comet.
Mr. Venza, your time is up, so maybe you can just quickly wrap up. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I will. This is also the other collaboration with Korea Center for Exploration of the Origin of the Universe. This is with NASA. It was exhibited in Singapore, the ArtScience Museum. And this is with France, LAM, Laboratory Astrophysics Marseille. And this is also it's called Team Asia, the simulation of for Mars simulation. This is one in Utah. Just follow the program. And also one in Japan. It's called Shirase. And the next, we also invite all participants who interested with our project. The new project is called VMARS, to build the Voxpops analog research station in Indonesia. And then if you have interest, or if you have some idea, just let me know, and it's open for the collaboration in any other idea. So thank you very much for the.
Thank you, Mr. Venza, for that. Wow, there's a new project with Mr. Venza. It's so interesting. You get to see Area 51. Wow. All right. I would love to look into this further, but we are short on time, so we will invite our next speaker, Dr. Hani Bahari, member of Digit Collective. And he is a very special speaker for us today because he is the winner for our first ASM ArtScience 2020 prize. Please, the floor is yours, Dr. Hanif, and for your sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lin, and thank you all for coming. So today I'm going to talk about our collective's approach of meaning making and knowledge creation through transdisciplinary research practice. Okay, just a little bit before I go on, we know I cannot see your timer, so but it's okay. Right, now, we are called the Digit Collective. We consider ourselves as a research group, and we are a group of multidisciplinary researchers. The G in Digit is stylized as 8 to represent the original 8 members who founded the group, and Digit stands for Data, Digital, Interactions, Technology, and Transdisciplinary. And this is our philosophy. So we have the interest to push the epistemological boundaries between the fields of knowledge. We celebrate the polemics of idea and thinking and investigate the problem of knowledge production and wisdom. We deploy research methods and collaborative design process in the production of our artworks, and we are committed to bring knowledge to a wider audience. Right, so these are our group members. We have Afdal from HCI and User Experience, Hafiz in Electrical and Electronic Engineering, and myself in Interaction Design and Physical Computing. Next, we have Mr. Nasir, our mentor and curator and visual artist, Dr. Shah from Architecture, Dr. Nazrita, HCI, Dr. Putri, Big Data Analytics, and Dr. Shurin, Landscape Architecture. I would like to emphasize here that this is not what we do. We're not trying to combine art and science and produce artworks. So our artworks are not scientific representation or artistic representation of scientific knowledge. What we are trying to aim for is this. So what we do are projects that blurs the boundaries between all these fields of knowledge with the aim of meaning making and knowledge production, and we produce documentation, publication, and exhibitions. This is our process. We always start with the research, and then we try to expand the meaning of the findings of the research through multidisciplinary discourse, and the expanded meaning will then inform the form of our artwork. The form will also help us to evolve the meaning, and our discourse is an iterative process. And finally, we'll produce an artwork, but for us, the most important thing is the text, the publication, because those are the knowledge that we can archive. The artwork for us is transient and ephemeral, but still it will be a starting point to engage with the public. And from this new knowledge will inspire us to create more research. Right, so I would like to illustrate how we go through the process by giving examples of our projects. The first one is Digital Tropical Breathing the Wave. It is based on a research on big data and renewable energy research, which collected oceanic wave heights data near Tioman Island for 2 years. The data collected were used to predict wave heights using big data analytics. The aim of the research is to see if the ocean near Tioman is suitable for electricity generation. So we have our research there, and then we try to expand the findings of the research, the meaning of the findings, through our discourse. And through that, we came up with a few statements here. Like, we think that the design of new technology should work in sync with nature instead of creating new technology to conquer nature by making changes to the environment. And we see the similarities between green and renewable energy technologies with traditional tropical vernacular architecture, because tropical architecture actually works in sync with nature and it functions in the ebb and flow of floods. So through the expanded meaning of the research findings, through our discourse, we then came out with the form for our artwork, as you can see here. In this work, we highlight the architecture of a 300-year-old house that made it suitable for tropical climate. The house is called Istana Putri Bongsu, or in English, the Palace of the Youngest Princess, used to be owned by a royal family. The area under the house is lit up using LED strips. The brightness of the LED corresponds to the ocean wave heights data from Tioman project. The higher the wave, the brighter the LED, as you can see in the video here. Again, this is a site-specific work, and for us, artwork are transient and ephemeral. So we archive our discourse in a publication. We publish a booklet for this work. And this work has won the ASEM ArtScience Prize, and we would like to thank the Academy of Sciences Malaysia for awarding us this prize. And the next project is called The Uncertain. The project is currently on exhibit at Fergana Gallery, Kuala Lumpur. Again, it is based on research. So we did a survey on the living conditions at low-cost housing schemes in Kuala Lumpur during the COVID-19 lockdown. And through our discourse, we have published 7 articles on this issue through the lens of human and technology, architecture, landscape architecture, and data analytics. And finally, we produced the form for the artwork, in this case, a video. What we did was we gave out online survey and asked people to send photos of their home that shows comfort. And then we used AI to manipulate all the photos and produce a video. As you can see here, the living room is converted into an outdoor garden by the AI. And the first and the second project actually inspires us to conduct more research, because we were looking at comfort and tropical climate. And so we went back to the old Malay house and we collected thermal comfort data from the traditional Malay house. So after our discourse, we came up with this video. So what we did was thermal images of a male human body were taken at the old Malay house. And we feed the images into AI to create a new set of images, as you can see here. So the video is exhibited in this conference, and the work is still in progress. So we are still doing our discourse, and the form will inform new meanings. And finally, when we finish, we will publish our discourse in a publication. And with that, I would like to thank you for listening, and thank you for all the sponsors for the event today.
Thank you, Dr. Hanif, for keeping the time. Without further ado, we go to our next speaker, which is Mr. Cho Guan. Okay. Cho Guan will be talking about, is a co-founder of Tokata Studios. He will be sharing his presentation titled Timeskeeper. His bio will be in the chat box, so you may look about his background. The floor is yours, Cho Guan.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Lin. Yeah, Timeskeeper. I guess everyone will be wondering what it is, but Timeskeeper is a made-up word. It's actually 2 words combined together, which is time and escaper. So when these 2 are being put together, it becomes a timeskeeper. So most of us has been gone through the COVID isolation, or you can say that we have ever been living in the isolation state at one point. And Timeskeeper is like where you or myself has been going through very much our own mirroring time. So always light, sound, and our mind actually create a very interesting kind of science reaction. So in this picture that you can see that myself is foreseeing, like going into a different kind of world. It's a world that unknown world, could be a future or it could be in the far past. All right, so Timeskeeper, I could call myself a Timeskeeper because everyone, although we are having the same time, but then we are always value the time differently. Yeah, sometimes you feel like you are just going through a minute with a very long a minute, but sometimes a minute can be super short, depending on how you enjoy the moment. So this is a performance that created, it's a 5 years project that's been created since 2015. It's a project about visualize the 2020 in 2015. So this project actually involved a lot of performers, and also involve a lot of artists and scientists into this project. I've been doing a lot of roundtable with these people, come up with questions about what do you think about the future and what is your dream from the past and sort of things. That's why you can see like in this particular one of the performance that show in DPKL City Hall, they are a different age of people from 8 years old up to 70 years old. So before they get on the stage, they actually also gone through sort of like a round table, a bit of discussion and stuff like that. It's so interesting that where you have different age group of people putting together and have some debates and discussion, that's really interesting. And the picture below is one of the last episode of the 2020 project. It's called Timeskeeper, where the musicians are, of course, we know that musicians always sit and play, but in this performance, the musicians are the clones that they traveling through the time and through the time machine. They are the intruders that attacking the time. They are creating confusion to the time. Yeah. All right. And yeah. So I would like to play you a short music that the instrument that I always play and also inspired me a lot for my last 10 years of work. It's an instrument on the left called theremin, and the right is a collaborator, a person that I never really meet before. He playing a sape, and he's from Kalimantan. Okay, I should stop here because we run out of time. And the instrument actually inspired me a lot. It's an instrument that invented by a physicist called Leon Theremin. That's why the instrument is called theremin. And you can see it very quickly after I know about this instrument. It recalled my dream. My dream was want to become an astronaut. And I create a series of a work about space, like traveling into space. That's why in 2010 I created this work called Space Age, the journey like never before. So I've never been to space, but I create a visual stage where I create like a spaceship that travel and bringing the audience to the space, and I make sure that I bring them back to the Earth. Yeah. This is how it looks like, and this was invited to perform in Japan. We have a tour in Japan. And also mobile phone orchestra is something that I've been exploring and experimenting by using mobile phone to create an orchestra, like where people really immerse and really get into a different landscape, atmosphere to play with the strangers. And also sometimes they collect it's a collective kind of performance in a way. And the recent project that I'm working on is also working with artists and scientists around the world in different continents. It's a discussion about the name is called Sun Hygiene. Sun Hygiene means mountain, ocean of today. So we were talking, so we invited artists and scientists. We have talked about how myth in our culture actually foresee the environmental sustainability, also the technology, because this is very much inspired by the book called The Classic of Mountain and Sea, that it been written without knowing who is that 5,000 years ago. It has amazing geography, and it talks a lot about creatures creatures that might not existing anymore, and also flora and fauna. So this, and also myth, the story of myth. So we brought this up and discussed with artists, scientists around the world. We just wrap up this Sun Hygiene phase 1. So we have artists like from Latvia, from Taiwan, from Bolivia, from Malaysia, of course, and from Germany, as well as computer scientists from California, from the
So
States.
Guan, maybe you
Yep.
can wrap up now?
Yep, so that's pretty much what I'm doing is, I don't see it as an art or science, but it's just something that I'm really interested. Yeah, thank you very much.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you very much. I agree with you that I don't see it myself or whatever I do as art science. It's just who you are, as a person that combine this all the knowledge that you have and experience. Okay. For our next speaker, Dr. Emmanuel Sacclovis. He's a co-director of Future Research Institute, Lancaster University, and convener of the Health SIG of the UK and Greece. Presentation titled Designing and Exploring Futures. The floor is yours, Dr. Emmanuel.
Thank you very much. And what an exciting range of presentations we have today. So far, it's been really fascinating. And thank you again for the invitation. I'm going to dig straight into it. And just to say that governments today, in fact, they need new tools to become more future-facing in their decisions, to look beyond the next 10 years and address really the challenges that societies are facing today. And this is especially true as currently policymaking tends to be very reactive, responding to immediate problems. And at the same time, we're at a momentous time for humankind, because we're at a point we've never been before as a species, where technology moves much faster than humans can adapt and governments can regulate. And a classic example of that is the Uber, I know in Southeast Asia, Grab service innovation that sprang very quickly, overtook a new market, and of course there was no regulation about it. And in the UK a couple of years ago, that led to an important legal battle. And of course now we have legislation for this type of services. But unfortunately, this is already too late, because the next big thing, perhaps in taxi services, people starting talking, is drones, and moving people through drones. And at the same time, also, governments today, they're looking for new ways to approach the future, the policy processes and political decision making, moving towards more inclusiveness, openness, and transparency. And of course, people are concerned that future systems, services, technologies, they've often been designed without them being involved. And here lies the gap. Yeah, how can we anticipate future technology? How we can and how we can involve citizens in the decision making. To answer that, we started exploring a fairly transdisciplinary research method. Actually, what done Sri Datuseri, Dr. Maslan Othman mentioned right in her keynote presentation, that actually combines elements from arts, science, design, and technology. This is called speculative design. Some people may know it as design fiction, and is the idea of creating future worlds based on emergent technologies, and actually developing real prototypes. Some of them, quite often, they're dummy prototypes, they're not working, but actually to showcase what if that's happened. Such as in the case of what you see here in front of you, what looks like a saber-toothed fillet, prehistoric meat. What if we were able to create that? What would it mean for the planet? What does it mean in terms of how we are in terms of society? But the great thing is that by realizing this, so you can create leaflets, or in this case of this this project, what they did, actually they placed them in actual supermarkets. You can get people reactions, and people started debating, and you can engage people in discussion about asking what if questions. What if this is possible? What would it mean? What do you need to change? Is this something we aspire to? Is it a preferable future or something we want to avoid? So it's this specific method we actually wanted to try in a project here in Malaysia, in enabling governments and community groups, especially senior citizens, to imagine the future implications of health and policy initiatives in creative ways. And specifically, we were looking at aging in place in big city centres such as Kuala Lumpur. So in fact, we've engaged over a year with policymakers, NGOs, community groups, and of course senior citizens. We trained different groups in using this method, and we engaged with people to find out about the problems and then how we can take this to create those very creative speculative designs that can help influence policy and decision making. So one of the ideas that they came up with, the year is 2025, and in Malaysia there is a new bus travel system called TAPSAS that has been developed, where 80% of the seats actually are allocated to senior citizens, recognizing the need for them to be more mobile and explore the city. And not only that, if a person who's not a senior citizen takes one of these seats, actually what happens, they've got 5 seconds to change the seat. They're already defined electronically, because an airbag inside the seat actually physically pushes them out of the seat. And then of course the aim here was to provoke that discussion and debate rather than suggesting that, this is what we should be doing. We also created some video Voxpops, and I'll play an extract from here. Sorry, I just realized it's playing also. It's playing also on my web browser, so I'm going to stop it there, and I'll reshare the slides. So basically, we also created Twitter feeds of people's perception on both arguments. And we took it back to the public. We opened it seeking responses. And actually, some people thought that actually this was a service that was implemented in reality, or it was going to be implemented. So it created a very interesting debate about what needs to be done or not need to be done to reach that stage. So some of the key findings was from experimenting with this method that combines art, science and technology, is that it helps immensely in anticipating futures, but also drawing the ethical concerns and the questions, and very importantly, to engage citizens and policymakers alike. As a result of that, we actually created those little books targeting different audiences, and we've got online versions of this, which you can access through the web link there, available both in English and in Bahasa Malaysia as well. So I'm aware of the time, and I'll thank you again for your attention. I look forward to questions at the panel session later on.
Thank you so much, Dr. Emmanuel. Okay, we are ending. We have 1 minute left in our session. And okay, what we're going to do is that all the questions, we're going to compile it together, and we're going to have an email sent in the chat box. So any question from the audience can send to this email, and we will pass it to all the speakers. So then you can have more interaction and a continuity in discussion and discourse. So I'm hoping that we could have a further forum. So please send your question to at this email in the chat box, vinoteni@academyscience.gov.my. Please look at the chat box, and that is the email. So any question, and we will compile whatever in the chat box. I think we have one question that was not that was for Noah, so we will send it to you, and everyone will be able to connect after this. All right, so we come to the end of the session. We had very, very interesting and distinguished speakers. Venza, Emmanuel, Cho Guan, Noah, and Hanif all are expert in their own way and how they define and interpret sciences according to design, astrophysics, space, Hanif, and in more to social science, Cho Guan in music. We are honored to have all the speakers. Thank you very much. And also to our keynote speaker, Sansri Dr. Mazlan Osman, who initiate this art science initiative under the Academy of Science Malaysia. I thank ASEM 13 ASEM Fest also for inviting us to be part of your festival. And thank you everyone for all the inspiring ideas and research share. So I end this webinar for today. We will meet you soon for our next webinar. We will rope you in and always put you in the loop. Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.